The Specter of Communism in Hawaii, 1947 to 1953. Chapter 2, The Truth. In less than a week after Governor Steinbach's Armistice Day speech, a 32-page pamphlet entitled The Truth About Communism in Hawaii was released to the public. It was claimed to have been written by Akira Iizuka, a former vice president of ILWU Local 135 on Kauai and a self-confessed former communist. In the prefatory note, Iizuka explained the reason for writing this document, which named 47 active communists in the party during his membership. Because of all that I did to strengthen the party in the days of my blindness, I now desire to tell you the truth of my experience, whatever the consequences may be to myself. You must know what is amongst you before it's too late. This is my warning. Footnote: Kairo Iizuka, The Truth About Communism in Hawaii. According to Iizuka in a June 7, 1973 interview, the cost of publication for the original 30,000 copies was underwritten by advances from the Hawaii Government Employees Association and the Teamsters Union. He also indicated that the Hawaii Sugar Planters Association later provided the money for the printing of a Filipino version of The Truth About Communism in Hawaii. Footnote end. The pamphlet contained a story that would be told many times, in various forms, during Hawaii's struggle with the issue of communism. One of the most important questions about the document was whether or not it was actually written by Iizuka, but at this point, The Truth About Communism in Hawaii was treated as Iizuka's own story, as it was presented to the public. Akira Iizuka was 36 years old at the time of the publication of his pamphlet. He was born on June 5, 1911, at Hanapepe, Kauai, and was the sixth of 9 children of parents who had come to the islands from Japan as contract laborers in 1900. Iizuka left the plantation when he was 16 to work as a boatman at Port Allen, Kauai. He soon became involved in the growing labor movement on the island due to the harsh and dangerous working conditions. Iizuka explained that it was during the 1937 strike of the independent Kauai Longshoremen's Union that he first heard about the Communist Party. During the strike, the Kauai dock workers were assisted by people in the labor movement, including Jack Hall and George Godu, both of whom were members of the Communist Party. They brought with them plenty of communist literature, which Iizuka devoured, leading him to believe he had discovered a party that had something to offer the workers. Within a year, Iizuka joined the Communist Party, and the pamphlet described the excitement he felt as he became a member. Jack Komodo was named as the individual who directly inducted him into the party, with Hall and Godu described as Union Party members. The pamphlet emphasized the secret character of the Communist Party and its relationship with the ILWU. Iizuka warned that the same tactics were still being used in the ILWU, and the Union members did not realize what was happening to them. The influence of the Communist Party on Kauai was not limited to the Union, according to Iizuka. The Progressive League of Kauai was controlled by the party without the knowledge of its members, and the Communists, through the Progressive League, were credited with defeating Kauai's conservative Republican territorial Senator Lindsay Fay in 1938. The beneficiary of this alleged communist support, Democrat J.B. Fernandez, did not know of such aid, Iizuka claimed. He also alleged that Hall extended the influence of communism into Kauai politics through his control of territorial Senator Clem Gomes, who used Hall as a speechwriter, but was unaware of Hall's communist affiliation. Iizuka described how he became involved with recruiting for the Communist Party on Kauai. According to him, the method was to recruit only the strongest and most fanatical elements who know how to obey orders. As a reward for his efforts, and as an investment in his future potential to the Communist Party, Iizuka was sent to the party's school in San Francisco in 1939. The decision to send him was made by the Central Committee of the Communist Party in Hawaii, which was chaired by Jack Komodo and included other members such as Dr. John Irianeki, Jack Hall, Jack Kawano, and Aquan Lee. Jack Hall was also sent to the Communist Party school in San Francisco, where he and Iizuka met Robert McElrath, who was described as one of the greatest advocates of extending communist power throughout the unions. One of the most damning allegations in the Iizuka pamphlet was the description of the Communist Party's efforts to subvert the American effort to aid the Allies after the beginning of the war in Europe in 1939. According to Iizuka, when war broke out, a Communist Party instructor instructed him and Jack Hall to destroy all evidence, including books and other literature, important party papers, and membership books, because the party expected raids from the FBI. Iizuka also engaged in anti-war work until the German invasion of the Soviet Union. He sought to belittle Jack Hall's role in the development of the ILWU in Hawaii and charged that Hall urged the Kauai longshoremen to affiliate with the ILWU instead of the AFL because the communists had trouble working through the AFL. He also claimed that Hall took the Kauai dock workers out on a needless 10-month strike in 1940 to 1941, a strike that resulted in the workers taking a real beating. The pamphlet also described the reactivation of the Communist Party in Hawaii at the end of World War II, which began with informal discussion groups at which unwary middle-class people were indoctrinated with communist literature. The leading lights in these discussion groups were John Rienecke, Mr. and Mrs. Robert McElrath, Peter and Alice Hyen, Eileen Fujimoto, Jack Kawano, Jack Komodo, and Iizuka himself. When orders came from San Francisco to reactivate the party, the discussion groups were dropped. There followed a rather detailed description of the various cells, clubs, or fractions. These are three terms meaning the same thing which were formed primarily according to occupational groupings or geographic location. It was in this section that Iizuka built his list of 47 party members in quick order. Many of these names were to appear over and over again in the press, at hearings, in a variety of reports, official and otherwise, on the strength of their having been present in the Iizuka pamphlet. The most striking feature of Iizuka's membership lists was the obvious connection between the Communist Party and the ILWU from the secretarial level: Elizabeth Bristow, Peggy Usugi, Jeanette Nakama, Pauline Rosenthal, Aileen Fujimoto, all the way to the top ILWU staff members in Hawaii: Jack Hall, David Thompson, Jack Kawano, Robert McElrath. In all, there were no less than 12 groups identified in the Iizuka pamphlet in what appeared to have been a rather fluid organizational structure. In an interesting aside to the general description of the party organization, Iizuka described the manner in which the Communist Party used one member, Koichi Emori, to infiltrate the AFL Teamsters Union. Emori, who had worked his way into the confidence of Art Rutledge, head of the Teamsters, was assigned by Rutledge to assist Robert McKinney in raiding the ILWU pineapple workers. McKinney, formerly president of the ILWU Pineapple Local on Oahu, had been suspended by the ILWU for openly breaking with union policy in May 1947. The raid was not successful, and the strong inference of the Iizuka pamphlet was that Emori was effective in his quiet efforts to subvert the drive which was being led by McKinney. Emori, denounced by Rutledge, resigned from his position in the Teamsters Union on May 23, 1947. Iizuka indicated that Rutledge openly attacked Emori after he discovered that Emori was soliciting subscriptions from AFL members for the West Coast Communist newspaper, People's World. Another interesting characterization in the Iizuka pamphlet was that of Yasuki Arakaki, president of ILWU Local 148 at Ola'al. Arakaki was reputed to have been converted by Jack Komodo and Mr. and Mrs. Charles Fujimoto. The argument that won him over, Iizuka asserted, was that joining the party was the only way to control Hall and Thompson because they, too, were subject to discipline. The description of the organization of the Communist Party in Hawaii concluded with the following characterization of the party's central controlling body. Each cell group elects a delegate to the executive board, which is the supreme authority in Hawaii, but in turn responsible to California. Before I retired in November 1946, the executive board of the Communist Party in Hawaii was as follows: Denishi Jack Komodo, chairman; Dr. John Rienecke, treasurer; James Freeman, Mrs. Aquan, Robert McElrath, Jack H. Kawano, Charles Fujimoto, Eileen Fujimoto, Ralph Vosbrink, and David Hyen. This group was supplemented, from time to time, by the addition of Yasuki Arakaki and Harry Kamoku from the island of Hawaii, and Yoshikazu Morimoto of Maui, according to Iizuka. In addition, the pamphlet asserted that Jack Hall, Robert McElrath, and Henry Schmidt, an ILWU official from San Francisco, were called in for important problems. We might say, Iizuka summed it up, that the union feeds the party and in return the party controls the union in the interests of party policies and objectives, geared to the policies and objectives of the Soviet Union. If one changes, the other changes. Iizuka offered no evidential basis for the link-up with Moscow. In the next segment of the pamphlet, the Iizuka message became more strident as the cause of his departure from the Communist Party was treated. He charged that the ILWU PAC was dominated by the Communist Party and worked against the best interests of the working man in Hawaii. It was over the PAC's endorsement of Delegate Joseph R. Farrington instead of his Democratic opponent, William Borthwick, that Iizuka reportedly quit the Communist Party. The Communist leadership, Iizuka charged, had decided to crucify Borthwick for 30 pieces of silver. The 30 pieces of silver the PAC sought, and according to Iizuka received, was the neutrality of the Honolulu Star Bulletin in the 1946 sugar strike. Farrington, the major stockholder in the Star Bulletin, was either bought or duped in this evil bargain, according to Iizuka. Iizuka did not deal with the possibility that the ILWU may have had substantial pragmatic justification in securing the neutrality of the Honolulu Star Bulletin, Hawaii's most widely circulated newspaper, during the historic 1946 sugar strike. The whole matter was treated as an episode in a sinister international conspiracy. Iizuka openly challenged the decision to endorse Farrington, called on the carpet by the Communist Party, his support of Farrington was made a matter of party discipline. The following day, October 12, 1946, Iizuka submitted a letter of resignation. Iizuka insisted that there were others in the party who wanted to support Borthwick in the delegates' race, including Wilfred Oka and his wife, Koichi Imori, and Charles and Eileen Fujimoto. However, they were prevented from doing so by party discipline, which they were willing to follow. Iizuka commented on Borthwick's loss to Farrington by 8,500 votes. He lost because a conspiratorial Communist Party deceived the workers of Hawaii, who did not know they were communists, into following their leadership in simple trust. Iizuka then closed with a flourish, "I quit the Communist Party because it is not honest with the workers." With Adolf Hitler, the party believes that the lie is a very useful means for gaining its ends. The bigger the lie, the better it works. Moreover, the Communist Party is not interested in the workers in Hawaii as human beings or individuals. Its loyalty is not to Hawaii or America, but to the Soviet Union. The Iizuka pamphlet served two very important immediate purposes. First, it underscored Governor Steinbach's warning about the menace of communism in the territory of Hawaii, and second, it set the stage for the events that were to follow in rapid succession. 10 days after the pamphlet was issued, the Reinekis were suspended. A little more than a month after the Iizuka pamphlet was made public, the ILWU had a revolt on its hands.